We got a couple more people coming in and we're getting ready to get started. Is this loud enough?
Yes.
Great. I want to go ahead and start off by apologizing that we had a last minute switcheroo with our programs and it caused a lot of confusion, and we're sorry about that, but things happen, life happens. So the result is just a flip-flop of the two presentations. So tonight we have Ron Buckley and the Mill, and then next month we will have James Duvall will present on Big Bone Springs Hotel. So if you're here for Big Bone Springs, you're really going to enjoy the Mill. Okay? And vice versa. For those of you who do not know me, I am Hillary Delaney. I'm the president of the Boone County Historical Society. We will do our annual meeting, take care of business after all this good stuff. So you're welcome to stay. This is our annual meeting, so if you have dues to pay, Steve will happily take your dues for the upcoming year. And Ron Buckley is one of our board members, and he has a long history with archaeology, and he has uncovered quite a few sites in Boone County that are of historical importance. Some are known, some were not known, but he always finds good things. And the Crisler Mill site is tonight's topic, and he will tell you all about the good things that happened there.
Use the mic, Mike. There you go.
Well, I was supposed to be here about 6-7 months ago, and all at once I fell. So 2 days before, we had to cancel. I couldn't move. If you have not picked up one of the little drawing cards for the 3 items we're going to be giving out tonight, please pick one up. There's a magazine over here, Ohio Archaeologist and American Archaeologist.
Use the microphone.
You can take it off the thing if you want. You need to walk around.
Both of these are absolutely tremendous magazines. The Ohio Archaeologist, they even have meetings here in Cincinnati at times. The American Archaeologist gives you a chance to learn what is going on in the United States.
Closer to your mouth, please.
Oh, sorry.
Good. That's perfect.
But they have, the American Archaeologist Group, preserve sites and trying to save our heritage. They have preserved, I think it's 545 sites now throughout the United States. They're very good magazines to learn things from. One of the things they talk about there is that we have a very big shortage of archaeologists. They say we need 8,000 archaeologists in the next 10 years in order to try and save our heritage. Jeanine, hard for me to pronounce.
Janine Kreinbrink?
Kreinbrink, is she here tonight?
No.
She did an excellent report. The first picture that you see on the screen there is a painter's version of what the big wheel looked like on that site. Next. This is the only picture I have been able to find concerning the mill. I've tried everybody I know. It does show us some important things, like up top there, you can see that the water ran through there and made the wheel turn, but it's the only one that's available. Next. Jack Rouse was very helpful. Between him and Mr. Tom Schiffer, we found out a lot about the mill. We know that it was about 4 to 5 stories high. We know that it had like 7 levels of tobacco there. And based upon Tom and Bruce Ferguson's trips throughout the county. We know about when it was still active as a barn and when it fell. We'll get into that. It's been a little bit tough trying to get the information that I needed as far as the owner. There were some outside influences that were affecting it, but I got a hold of Bridget. Boy, within 24 hours, I was on the site, and the owner was happy to see me and took me all over the site. His name was Bobby Sebree. In fact, he was due, or wanted to come to the meeting that we were going to have 6-7 months ago, and he passed away 2 weeks before that. He was a fantastic individual. Pat Wingo, I always cover this. I'm not a professional archaeologist in any way, shape, or form. I minored in it in college. I have a strong interest in history and archaeology combined. Pat Wingo says, we can't prevent the loss of every historical building, grave marker, cemetery, archaeological site, but we can document the remaining evidence of our history so that if it inconceivably does happen, we have done our best to save what we can for the future. And that's basically what I do. Next. Here's the letter that Bridget wrote for me. Bridget started off, she cornered me in the library about 13 years ago. I said, don't you have anything to do? I said, well, I just retired. She said, I got a lot for you to do. So she's worked with me all these years, and she's really helped me. She's a real gem, really. Next. If you know anybody that's in the Boone County Conservancy, I suggest you get a hold of them. This is a picture of where you just go into the gate. It's absolutely stunning. I have never seen any site as beautiful as this site. You'll see some other pictures going on, but this is about what it'll look like in about 2 weeks. It's absolutely gorgeous. Next. I am dedicating this book to my grandson, Santiel. He started off at 212 on the Jacob Pyatt farm with me. He learned a lot. He stayed with me on and off until we got done with the grist mill. Next. Let's look at the Crisler family genealogy, and then we'll look at the Crisler. Gully. Leonard Crisler came from Madison County, Virginia. He married Margaret Clore. They didn't have 1 or 2 kids, they had 11. One of his sons was Louis Crisler, whom started his grist mill. He was born June 1st, 1773 in Madison County, Virginia. He died in 1843. His wife was Catherine Shelf, was his first, and Polly Simmerman was his second. Next. This is just a timeline to get a better idea of what was going on here. So in 1773, Crisler was born in Virginia. In 1810, he was on the Boone County Census. 1817, he bought land from Mr. Marshall. Between there and 26, I'm sure he was lining up like these stone wheels, where to get them. They came from France, a special clear water lake over there. So all these had to come in, and I'm sure he didn't buy 1 or 2. They either came down the rivers or they came up through New Orleans, I don't know which. But then they had a heck of a time trying to get him across country over to where he was at. 1834, once he decided to sell the mill. Later, in 1843, he left and went to Indiana and passed on there. In 1968, Schiffer and Bruce Ferguson were scouring the countryside, finding old sites, etc. They noticed in '68 that this structure was still standing. It had tobacco in it. They came back the next year, flat. It was just an old mill that just gave up. Next. Let's look at the other part of the genealogy, the Gully family. He was born in 1858, died in 1938. He had a wife, Elisa Jones, and a son, Robert Gully. Robert Gully was born in 1889, died in 1970. He raised a lot of tobacco. He had a very interesting wife. They called her Wetty Nettie because they had no water source out there except for Gunpowder Creek, and that's where she took her baths. So that's how she got her nickname. So they had a son, Albert. Albert married Pearl, and she had a son, Bobby Sebree, and that's how Bobby Sebree came into taking over this mill site. Next. And here's a picture of Robert Gully, still out there taking tobacco at the age of, like I said, 91. Next. Here's a picture of the Gully family, and they're standing at the house, which was originally the Miller house. I want you to notice that chimney on the right side of the building there. Just remember it's there because it's something interesting. Won't tell you now. Next. Maps of Gunpowder Creek and the Grist Mill property. Next. There we see a map of the property involved. You see where it says Camp Ernst down there? Well, that's a microphone. This is a very important place. Water's coming down Gunpowder, and it makes a jog to the right. Right where that jog hits, it makes a 90-degree, is where you're going to have much more power that you can achieve with water because it's forced in and it's trying to escape. And then they put a flume here, and that makes it even more powerful. So this gentleman was pretty smart. He was smart like the Jacob Pius and the Robert Pius. They picked the best land and they made it go. This fellow was pretty smart. Let's look at another picture. Next. It's a color copy of it, and I want you to see about where that flume was, which would carry the water on down the racetrack down to the pond. And from the pond it goes over the wheel. Next. I wanted to get some free labor, so I got a hold of my son, who's a professional engineer, and he's licensed. He came to the site. He said the builder of the grist mill was very experienced in stoneworking, building structures, selecting sites, and the site that he chose would give him the maximum power to run his wheel. He said the working parts of the mill were probably brought in as a package. It probably had somebody come in with it who would know how to do this, how to put all this together. Next. Boone County grist mills. There was a couple dozen. You see some important people though with these. You have the Sebrees, you have Towsey, you've got Graves. All these are very familiar people in the early 1800s that were very important in Boone County. Next. Next. Oh, you got it there. Okay. If you look up there, you see he had 3 horses between 21 and about 29. All at once he's ramping up to 6 and 7 horses. Well, there's a lot of stones to move. He's got to dig a raceway, or like a little run for the water to run, and it took a tremendous amount of power. It's estimated between 2 and 4 years to get it set up. Next picture is just showing you there the 7 at the bottom, which shows that that's what he was paying tax on. Next. So let's look at the grist mills and the types that there are, etc. The top picture is a view from the top, and you see the, here, hold this back. Your water comes in here, it goes into a holding pond. From there, it goes over to where the mill is and the wheel. If they have too much water, they can let it out the side. Can you hear me okay? Down here is a view horizontally. And this part right in here had to be lined up perfect so the water would flow correctly. And they were using wood as funnels to funnel this through.
Wow.
Got it? This is important too. There's different types of water wheels. You have the overshot, the undershot, and the breast wheel. The undershot is only about 30% effective because what it's doing is hitting the bottom of the wheel and turning it. You get more power if you go to the overshot and shoot it down through the top to move everything better. And then it becomes about 75% effective. The breast mill, that they say is about 65%. You're controlling the amount of water that's going over that wheel that way. Next. Hold this. So how does this really work? You've got gunpowder up at the top. You've got the water coming down a raceway to a pond, and then it comes into the through the dam and over the funnel that's carrying the water, and it hits the top of the wheel. The wheel starts turning. You've got a pole in here, or else a metal one or wood, one of the two, and you've got a gear line. That gear turns this other gear. That gear, in turning, moves the bottom stone, not the top. The bottom stone was actually smaller and didn't weigh as much as the top. One of those sets together could weigh a good 2 tons. So they had to have weight to lift it up and everything. But that's the way all those gears came in. If those gears aren't right, you're not going to do anything. So I think it was a very busy thing to do, and it took a lot of work. Oh, here it is. Up there at the top, you see that screw device? Good way to lift it up. It's just too heavy. You just can't do it. But like I said, the bottom one turned. It wasn't as thick, and it could move easier, and the top one just sort of stayed there. But it had to be perfectly level. These stones, can't pronounce the name of it. They come from Lafertes, Sos, something or other, I cannot pronounce it. The Marne River and Lake. So they traveled a long way. They were very precious. Without those, you didn't have a mill. Next. There's a good example I was able to find of one of them sitting in place, and you see how they can hook onto the sides of it and pull it up. Next. Well, thank goodness for Mr. Roush. He's got some papers in the library that show drawings and a couple pictures. There's one of the stones just sitting there in the woods not being used. I think they had to have at least 4 stones because Bobby Sebree told me his father sold 2, and there's one there, and there was a bunch of loose pieces of the stone laying around, and a couple of the wooden bands. So he had to have at least 4. So this is an expensive proposition. There's just an example of a grist mill I found. They were nothing fancy. They were just a place to do business and get a job done. Next. Here's some pictures from 2011. They're important because they're the earliest pictures, and after this, a year later, the owner of the property had somebody come into the mill and scrap all the metal, the gears and everything. Next. Here's a picture of the wall. Yeah, and then the bottom one is the inside. And you can see there's original beams and everything. Wait till you see the next picture. Next.
At the wall of the building or the?
Of the building, yes. Our foundation, I would call it. Up here you see the stone is laying there. One of these stones is in the Boone County Historical Society, and the owner let me have one. But here's the big part of this. There's gear. This other thing over here, I'm not sure what it is, but you can turn it, and it may have been to control the flow from the dam going on down to the rest of the mill. Down here's a great big solid column. It's one of the columns they use to send the water over in its trough. Next one. There's what's called the Upper Raceway. So you have Gunpowder Creek, you've got the raceway coming down to the dam, goes through the mill, and then you have the Lower Raceway. So that top is the top one. Right down there at the bottom, picture, you see all that stuff laying there? That's precious garbage. It would have given us a lot more information. But they messed up. They didn't clean the garbage dump up. I did. Next. There's an old barn there in the center of the top one. Over the left is a corn crib. Down below is the lower race, but here they were using the excess power that had been used to have a sawmill. The sawmill was up and running in the 1830s. So let's get into the cleanup. I had to go and clean up the site. There's a young man, Colin Delaney, who came in and helped me quite a bit. Outside of that, it was my grandkids and I. The top picture, that's what the inside of the mill looked like when we came in. It took over a month to clean these sites up, even part of them. There's that big column again. One of the hunters came up to me and said, "Ron, you know you can pull one of those stones out?" And I said, "Okay." So he pulls it out, and you get to see what's on the inside of the column. Nothing but chunks of wood. Not wood, excuse me, stone. All the nice stone is on the outside. And there you can see the dam. All that foliage had to be cleaned out. You couldn't even begin until you got rid of that. Next. The lower picture there shows the wall where the wheel was at, the water wheel, and then the top picture after we cleaned it up. Next. GPS locations. Why are we interested? Somebody down the line is going to want to know, where do I find this stuff? They're there. It'll get them within a foot. Next. Like over on the Pyatt property, there's a well that I found after 7 years, it's only this wide. If somebody knows where that is, maybe they won't step in it, because they do, they're not getting out. Next. Oh, okay. This is looking at the land transfers as to what happened. There's a section in the book about 60 pages long that has the long version of it. This is a short version. showing how, like Marshall, it went to Crisler there at the top, and then it goes on from Crisler to Chambers. It comes on down, and it gets interesting in the 1848 time period. We have a gentleman who owned the land, Stephen Graves, who sold to John Poplin. John Poplin sells part of it to a fellow, but then the other part never gets settled. He never took care of it. He never sold it. Well, the first thing you know, then another family, the Graves, is saying that's part of theirs. It ends up in court, and they say, okay, sell the land. So they sell the land, and Andrew Pyle's son-in-law got it back. And then the wife of Andrew Pyle's was not happy with that. So then you get over to where the property belongs to the Ryle family, and they sell it to the Gully family. The Gully family bought it for $3,500. That's mill and everything. Next. It doesn't make any sense.
So up here, you've got the water coming down from the dam and everything, all the way from the creek. You have this big column here, which is going to be used to help support the wood transfer device. Oh, but there's something we have to know. You would think that this was the front of it, but it wasn't. Bobby Sebree told me, no, it was over here. And he said, not only that, there was a dirt road there, which is still there, and there was a parking space. So the door was here, there were even glass windows. Your wheel is over here. The garbage dump that we'll get into was down here.
This is the best picture I have of what it looks like present day. It's growing back fast. One of the trees has actually fallen on that column, but it still withstood it. Okay, we're looking inside the grist mill. And like I said, they took all of that out, but they didn't get the little stuff. Okay? So here's some of the things we found. Does anybody know in the top picture what that top right thing is? It looks like a strainer or something. I don't know what it is. I've seen it before. And then right down below it there is a huge lock. It's about a 6-inch lock. It's one of the biggest locks I've ever seen. Here's some spoons and some other hooks, etc. Here it gets interesting. You're seeing some of the old primitive latches for barns, doors, and all that. You go on down below and you're getting into some plowshares. Next. This is really interesting. There's that door knob with the lock, both sides. It was found just like that. That shovel there, I thought would weigh about a pound, weighs about 4 pounds. So they were giving that some heavy duty use. And then down below you've got some of those pole latches. Next. Tremendous amount of horse material there. There's a lot of leather and everything just laying there on the ground, on the stones and that. So there's a lot of that material there. Next. That top item there, I found the same thing on another site, the beehive furnace site, except on the bottom part there it had 2 metal stakes that they drove in the ground. I assume that's to hold horses. Down below there you've got more of those latches. Oh, and yeah, that's it. And more buckles. More different types of chain in that. Next. There in the center,
You've sickle, but the handle's gone. And down below here, you've got another really big door latches. That then I did not know what it's for. Now it gets very interesting. Oops, that isn't it. Go ahead, one more. You see that round thing?
Yeah.
That has driven me nuts for 3 years. It's about a foot high, a little less than a foot wide. It's got a couple grooves on the bottom. And at first I thought it was something that maybe somebody dumped into a pail, concrete, and let it sit. It isn't. I just don't know what it is. I was hoping Jeannie Crankenberg was here tonight so that she could help me with that. Whoop! This other thing over here is very interesting. This had some type of wood knob on it so that you could turn it, and there's 3 blades here that would move things around. So it may have been used to move corn or something around, I don't know, but it's very interesting. Oh, hold on, this is a real gem. Okay, the one item there on the bottom, the top one, that's an old hand planer. It's missing the knob. I've never seen one out like that before. I've never seen them in a museum, but I hadn't seen one of those before. Does anybody have any idea what that blade is underneath it?
It's a corn knife.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know. And it had a handle on it?
Yeah.
What you do is just whack it down?
You betcha.
Thanks for coming.
I'll bill you at the end of the month.
I got a
bet you used
pencil.
one of those, haven't you?
Next. There's some other items that were found, like that horseshoe is really quite huge. You've got the porcelain caster, those date late 1800s or middle. Okay, so here is where we were before. This is up at the top, the flume that they put in to make the water come in the right way and go on down the raceways. Didn't touch a thing. Not a thing. I have no idea. Push X, I guess.
It's the arrow key.
Okay. Let's go to the sawmill. Since you won't see this, I'll just go over it with you. I did everything I could to find those gears. I contacted Recycle Express and Bluegrass Recycling. They have never come through there. So chances are some individuals got this sitting somewhere. Then I put an ad in the paper for a couple weeks, no response. Then I tried to work through people I knew to see if anybody had any idea where it was. And they don't. Gosh, I don't know what to say to you. Yeah, I'll just cover what I can. The water wheel area. I did not dig in below the water wheel. I'm leaving that for an archaeologist to come. Anything I found is on the top or 3 inches, no more than that. There were some bolts found there, which probably came off of the wheel when they disconnected it. There was one of those gear things I was talking about that was there.
Yes.
Okay, this doesn't work. I'm gonna break the microphone.
Just show us the pictures and tell us what's up there.
Well, I'm trying to get to the pictures. This is field 3 behind the mill that I told you before. They forgot to clean it out. Just an unbelievable amount of artifacts there. Up the top, you'll see some more of those hinges. Down below, you'll see a pitchfork, a horse bit, and
plow chutes. Next. Up top there are some support rods. The one item there down below, the top one there that has a little squiggly, they must have had something attached to that and use that to help pull. I found that on another site too. Those are different stove parts, top and bottom. Here there's a hook. Oh, that's the knife that gentleman told me what it was for, to cut off corn. And there's a big horseshoe. This is right behind there too. And why is this important? I worked the area. I almost had, I had one little bit to do. Here comes the power, the electrical people, power, energy people. And they were going to go into the wall. I said, you can't do that. So he came within a foot of the wall, but he destroyed all that behind the mill that I just showed you. All that's wiped out. All this was wiped out. So we wouldn't have had the bands, which I gave to a gentleman. He took it to his factory, made it so straight again and curled. And from that we were able to tell that the mill wheels were 4 feet across. So there's two they destroyed. Here's a picture of the dam, or drawing. It was 111 feet across. The center part there, you can see it's cut down. Well, they removed it. They wanted to drain the pond, according to Bobby Sebree. So that's what they did. And here's the interesting part.
So the water comes down to the dam. You can't just get it over here. You have to run a trough over. That's what this whole structure is for. To run it over to it, then over to that big column, so it can go on down.
So here's what the area really looked like. That's where the bottom one's where the water wheel was, and I told you we had to clean it up. And then the top one there was the dam that we had to clean up. And so there you see it cleaned up real good. I didn't find any metal there at all. Unbelievable. I walked all through that many, many times, and there was just nothing there. That's what we took a look at there for just a second. The upper raceway with the flume to direct the water towards the mill. Next. Site 4, sawmill. Remember, that was downstream from the mill. What you see on the left there, you'll see on the right too. The left, I want you to see the distance and what was there, the very left figures.
It might be hard to read.
Oh, okay.
About 68 feet from the bottom building to the top.
Yeah. What that is, it's a stone structure about 3 foot high, 3 foot wide. It has a notch cut in it so that something could go in there like a pole and then it would turn. The other thing down below it there, it was a pad about 3 foot by 3 foot, 3 foot high. I have no idea what it was for. Over in the center there is the same drawing, but I want you to see the rocks there. The rocks to the right of it, and then you go down, there's more. Don't know if that was a foundation for the building connected with the sawmill or not. If not, it was used to direct the water towards the wheel. I don't know which it is. Next. So there's an overall picture of the sawmill. Can you see it on the left side? Pile of stone there. And then on the right you have rocks there. Those are the rocks that were either the foundation or directing it over. Next.
stones I told you about that were either for the foundation or for directing the water over. You can see that these are one. An archaeologist might be able to determine what's that for. The Miller's house. Absolutely terrible. People came in and they took all the foundation and they decided to make a half-circle driveway. The stones are heavy. They're sunk in. There's about 400 stones there. I couldn't even work the area. So I guess this is up to an archaeologist with a big team to come in and do. Over to the top right there, you see the root cellar. And to the bottom there, you see their well. So, those are the stones that are left. But those stones were actually a chimney. Remember I showed you the one on the right? This is the one on the left. This structure was only 30 feet long and 19 across. It had 2 doors. Well, you see them right there. There are 2 doors there in the center of the building, and then a window on each side, and then you had a fireplace for each half of the building. How in the world could you live in there? Pretty tough. The only things that I did find there were some spoons and a horseshoe. That's about it. I couldn't go any further. It's going to take a team of people if they get together to do it. My grandson, he made the find of the day. There's a coin there, not 4 of them, just 1. And on it says, "This is my lucky day," where Lincoln's picture was. I have no idea about coins. Next is the barn. It's not an old barn. It's old, but it's not real old. It dates about 1920. The front of it, they put a lot of gravel there, so you couldn't do anything there either. I did find those 2 pieces. Horseshoe and the hook, that's it. Then we go to the corn crib, it gets even better. That's a corn crib. This guy that farmed down there for about 10 years, he's sort of a different person. Well, his tractor wouldn't stop. So instead of maybe turning to the right or the left hill, so it wouldn't go downhill, he decided to stop it with a corn crib. Corn crib gone. And that's the only thing I found there. You wouldn't expect to find too much there anyway. Next, one of the strangest sites I've ever worked. I call it the mystery site. It's at the end of the property, just before it turns in property that belongs to the YMCA that's out there. You can see it looks like there's 2 structures, but you really can't tell for sure. There were just enough stones there for me to figure that out. On the left side there, all those lines, let me go on over. These are stones going along the side here. There's a 3 to 4 foot drop. I assume that at some time there might have been water there. So here's one. There was just enough, few stones in this one to determine there was another structure there. And it's got 2 wells. And this is only 87 feet across, period. So I couldn't figure out the whole site. I did, well, here's some, these are pictures of what's there. Piles of stone. And this one, you'll see a few bricks down there at the bottom, and they have straw marks on for when they handmade them. Then next is more stones.
It says, "I only fell twice."
Yeah, I fell twice there.
I still at moss.
And I didn't even break my hip. So here's some of the interesting things that are there. Somebody came into this site, probably 1940s, 50s, and bulldozed part of it down. There's some cast iron legs from a stove. There's a little plate there that says Stove Company, Ohio.
Down below is some of the fancy gingerbread that was on on the furnace. Can anybody tell me what that is on the left of the top picture that's brown? Is that a plate to go on a stove or something? That's the only thing I can come up with. There was an axe there, then there was miscellaneous metal. Next. Then it really gets interesting. These are legs, 4 legs that went on something very heavy. And you could either have the legs down, or you could push them up, put a pin in, and they would not be on the legs, they'd just be sitting flat. Very unusual. Then there's a big plow shearer to it there. Top left there was a little kiddie's wheel from one of its toys. Down below was an iron. So somebody really lived there. But here again, I can't work this. I did what I could do. It's going to be up to a trained person to go in and probably spend $100,000 to get all this straightened out. This is a very unusual sight. You have a flat plain there that the water goes out of the creek and goes over it, helps reseed the nutrients, but it also takes away your land. Bobby told me that when he was a kid, there was glass there, pottery, and metal, and foundation. I found a few things, but I didn't find any of that. It must be down in the dirt. Here's some of what I did find. You see on the top picture there, the 2 bottom artifacts on the right, they appear to be stone hammers. So then I say to myself, well, maybe they did it. Maybe they took care of the stones there and used them for the building, but I couldn't find any scraps. Couldn't find anything, so I don't know why they're there. And then down below, another horseshoe and a hinge. Next is the pond. Heavily overgrown, really huge, probably 150 feet by 150 feet. Absolutely nothing was found there. Here's a beautiful stone wall. This goes along with the water coming over, trying to stop the creek from over and wiping out their crops. It's about 3 foot tall, 4 foot wide, and it's 250 feet long. Ooh. That's a lot of work. There's some more pictures. Oh, there's some good pictures of Gunpowder Creek. If you get a chance, go see it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got a sycamore tree there that you can sit on stone by. It's got to be 5 feet across at the bottom. The family well, found one piece there. Cast iron pipe, pot lid, that's it. The fruit cellar, it was filled with garbage. The lower raceway, beautiful shot of it. If you look at the edges, you come in, it's lasted all this time. That's where the water went back into the creek. The debris site wasn't a debris site. It's where they threw junk car pieces. So here's that big sycamore. That looked really small compared to it. So, basically after 13 years, I worked on 6 home sites, 104 sites on those sites. Probably put in about 8,000 hours. It was worth it. It really was. And I'm sorry that we had our popcorn interruption. It doesn't go over too well. But sometimes you just got to do and work with what you got. Thank you.